Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 18.12.01. This will cover the work undertaken between the 27th of November to the 10th of December. Starting with our sprint goal, and for this sprint our primary focus has been to update the Colleague 7 API to support the modification of an existing candidate record. Looking at the high-level items and to explain further, in this sprint, we've been able to enhance the Colleague 7 API to support updating an existing candidate record. Previously, our API supported the creation of a candidate record and the uploading of a document. This will be one of several ongoing API-based updates which we'll make over the coming months to ensure our API can manage the basic expectations of our client integrations. We've delivered a solution which was investigated in the previous sprint to allow for our background service to scale up or down for load management. Following the update made a couple of sprints back, we've updated the requirement selection screen so that the owned by field will default to the user who is logged in rather than searching against all users. We've fixed an issue which prevents the secondary email address from being searched via the selection screens for both candidate and contact. We've made a back-end update to the user overview area to ensure the dials are working against individual sequence numbers. This will help switching out and changing various dials to be a simplistic task, and is part of our longer-term plan to make these user dials configurable. As a minor addition within reports, we now have a select all option on all multi-selection lists in report criteria. A fix has been applied to the owning company field on all placement records. And further to the release of the upload template feature, there were several fixes which have been applied now based on client feedback. We'll now go through a brief demonstration on the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the first point to cover, and it was the main component of the sprint, is the updates made to our API. I won't stay with it for too long. I appreciate this might be, from a development standpoint, a bit technical and perhaps not so interesting, but it's just to demonstrate the progress that we're making here, essentially. So as things currently stand, obviously we have our Colleague 7 API development portal that developers could register with for access to our API. Within the API segment, we've got our Open API access. We've got the option to create a candidate record, which offers example code and the necessary details in relation to creating a candidate record from an external source into your colleague system based on a subscription key. They've got the means to also upload a document to a candidate record as well. And what we've done as part of this sprint is include this option to update an existing candidate record. So we're basically working our way up to that kind of Holy Trinity setup where you've got the ability to search for a candidate record, view if there's an existing candidate record. If there is, update that existing record, or if not, create a new one. And that essentially allows for third-party access for components like CV parsers and other options. But yeah, in terms of updating existing candidate record, you can see here that there is a new control that's been applied. You have also obviously code samples that are available as well as part of that update, and essentially all the details would be there waiting for a developer to take up if they needed to go down this route. So this is the next step along essentially in our API. We're now going to work on the ability to be able to retrieve the details of existing candidate records. So that would be the ability to essentially search the candidate entity and bring back field data. Again, all useful for things like candidate portals. And then from there we'll just continue to build on it with other options for things like lookups and skills, so that we can just allow all the functionality that's needed for the Open API. But that's the update we've made so far. The next point to cover, and it's a fairly minor update, is relation to the requirement selection screen. So the requirement selection screen previously, from the owned by perspective, would always or would load with the view all option. What it would now do is, if I just refresh the screen as we're going into it, what you'll now see is that the owned by will default to your user associated with your team, and it will be the first team that it finds with your user associated to it. What you can then do is obviously just quickly just do the search straight away, and it will look to find all requirements associated to you. If you are assigned to multiple teams, so you are in one team but also in another and another as well, then what you can do is you've got this option here of include all teams. which is to be used if the owned by user is allocated to multiple teams. If you set that one to yes, then for this user, I'm associated to a couple of teams, and then you'll see that you'll bring through just all requirements associated to you as a user. So that's just the updates we've made to the requirement selection screen. The next point to cover, and again, it's another minor update, and that's from the reports area within 7. If you go to a report, what we've been able to do is add in a select all option against multi-selections. So whenever you've got any drop-down options, you've now got a select all option there. So that's just basically the update there. Previously, you would have to individually select all of the items that you want, whereas now you've got a select all option there. And obviously, a click against select all will obviously deselect everything as well. But that was applied to all reports in any instance where there's a multi-selection option there. So that's the update we made there. Last point to cover, and it's just regards to the ability to search against the secondary email address for a candidate or a contact. You have this email field, and when you search against the email field, it will search against all email fields. But what we've needed to do is ensure that the wildcard option is set to contains when we're using this field, because it's using a field which is essentially containing both email addresses but separated by a delimiter. So what I mean by that is that when you when you first load it, the default is begins with, but if you enter any information in the email field, what you'll notice is that the wildcard option will switch to become contains, and then that will be read-only essentially whilst it's at that state. If you delete out this field, then this will become modifiable again. But if you just enter in an email address, that will switch to becoming contains, and it will just mean that when you run a search, it will find all instances where that email is being used either on the first primary email address or on the secondary email address option. So that's the update we've made against emails for both candidate and contact record. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 18.12.02, and as always, that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.